Ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101. 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 Promoter 101.
I'm Amy Morrison. I work at Concerts West, AEG Presents, and I'm on Promoter 101.
Hey, good to see you. Welcome back to Promoter 101. Come on in, sit a spell, take a load off. You look famished. We got some good stuff to share with you. Just take a load up and relax.
Episode 146 coming at you live. Today, we've got the Netherlands Networking Music's Ruud Berends in our featured interview as we continue the London sessions from ILMC earlier this year.
Great guy. Looking forward to that one. Plus, we've got 3 questions with Mac Presents Ben Pitkowsky.
Let's get the show started.
Hey, it's Johnny Schumann from AEG Presents, and you're tuned in to Promoter 101.
Hey, Connor, do you remember where you can listen to the podcast?
It's on the internet in places like that. Stop fucking with me.
Connor, continuing 2 in a row. I love it.
Well, this has become a useless plug 2 weeks in a row. Well done, Connor. Hey, if you've got something you want to share with us, simply email us at steiny@promoter101.net. We'll be happy to respond to you.
We may not be happy to respond to you, but we will respond to you, and we're going to do it wherever you can find us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at WLuke Pierce, Dan's the Jew. The show is Promoter 101.
You can find us on Instagram. The show is Steiny Promoter 101. Luke is W. Luke Pierce, and I'm Dan Presents.
Facebook, join the combo, Promoter 101.
Tumblr, same Promoter 101.
On the internet, www.promoter101.com. Plus, Dan, where all the cool kids are. We're over on LinkedIn now.
The cool kids.
Hello there, Andy Summers from APA and Promoter 101. Happy to be here.
Let's name drop a bunch of names and celebrate some birthdays at the same time this week, April 30th to May 6th, 2019.
Tuesday, 4:30, Kenny Weisberg.
Wednesday the 1st, David Rowan.
5/2, Leslie Spiracino.
On Friday the 3rd, wishing a happy birthday to Nick Light, RJ Harding, Vector Management's Ken Levitan, Adam Lewis, and Jerry Lima.
Saturday, 5/4, Ruth Gonzalez and Heath Miller.
On Sunday the 5th, a happy birthday goes out to Paul Italiano.
And Monday the 6th, Works Entertainment's David Britz and Kat Druckers.
Wonderful wishes to everybody on your birthdays from all of us here at Promoter 101.
Hi, this is Melanie Davis. I am the Tour Marketing Director for ICM Partners. I'm on Promoter 101.
First up on the podcast this week, we've got 3 questions with Mac Presents Ben Pitkowsky.
Ben, welcome to Promoter 101. It's time for 3 questions. Man, I can't think of anything better than somebody that spends day and night working with Marcy Allen. What a great thing. Mac Presents in the house.
Thank you for having me. I'm going to get you started. Here's question number 1. What is the largest change you've seen in the live music industry in the last 5 years, and what do you see coming in the next 5?
You know, I think the ticketing has really been the biggest change for the most part. We've seen dynamic pricing. We've seen platinum. We've seen flexing. And I think that's a huge, huge change for the artist and a great way to combat scalping and keep some of that money in the artist's pocket. So I think some of the technologies as far as verified fan and what have you have really helped protect the fans and the tickets and kept the bands deep in the security of controlling their ticket. And I think security over the next 5 years is only going to get better as we replace the barcodes with the actual chain of who has those tickets. And I think that's where we're seeing it go, because Ticketmaster seems to be leading the space that way. And everybody else seems to be trying to keep up the best they can as they can try and clone that technology. But clearly Ticketmaster is leading the way in making security and protecting the fans and the artist from that secondary market and from getting ripped off. And I think that's the future of the business.
Love to hear that. I'm all for more technology and better security. And that brings us to question number 2. What made you decide that you wanted to become a promoter, in Luke's case, a manager, versus another position in the industry?
Luke, do you want to take that first?
That's a solid question. My path into the entertainment business actually came from a desire of wanting to work in film and television, but I didn't know anyone in film and TV, having studied finance and economics on the East Coast and really spent most of my undergraduate time kind of focusing on building a career in that space. It wasn't until much later in college that I even decided to seriously pursue something in the business. So when I started networking right as school was ending for me, very lucky enough to have reached out to David Britz, who I knew from Penn State Alumni Association that I was involved in, an honor society that we shared together, and I had a great general interview with him. I had moved to Los Angeles to take a job in finance, just a paycheck, kind of just to be close to where the action was, but still working very much in like finance consulting kind of role. So I worked at that gig for about 6 months. I got a call from David one day saying somebody on his team had quit. Could I, come and work for him? And he prefaced it with the fact that he knew that I really came into his office looking to do something in film finance, but it's roughly the same kind of functionality and organization and mindsets required to be an assistant on a music desk versus a film desk. And if I spent time working for him, I could develop my own network and maybe, sideways transition into a 3-letter agency. And so I jumped at the chance to get out of my job in finance, which I really did enjoy, but wasn't necessarily the path that I was going to take for a long term, and was fortunate to be moving from project to project on finance, and the timing was great. So I went to work for David, and having been in it now for almost 10 years, I don't think I see myself doing anything else.
I knew I wanted to be a promoter from my early days. I was 7 years old and my parents took me to see Tony Orlando and Dawn at the Turn of the Century nightclub in Denver, Colorado, which is now a Office Max on the corner of Hampton and Yosemite, right by Cherry Creek High School. It was one early show. It was like nightclub thing. It was more like a Vegas showroom kind of vibe where it was a dinner show kind of set up. And I think they had these clubs all around the country back in the 70s and the 60s. And they kind of lost their way and kind of dissolved throughout the years. But, I just remember seeing the guy backstage counting the money and everybody coming in and him like yelling orders like he was in charge of everything. Not the guy on stage, the guy in that little room. He was the guy. And I was like, man, that guy. I want to be that guy.
Love it. Final question. What is your favorite entertainment industry book?
That's so hard. There's so many great books, but it's got to be Bill Graham Presents. I mean, he's the king. He tells the best stories. Just such a great book. It starts with the acid tests. Well, it gets interesting in the acid test as far as I'm concerned. He talks about his childhood and, coming out of Europe and his family, and he had a hard childhood and, his time in the military and what have you. And it's interesting. But when you pick up that book, you want to know about the dead. You want to know about the acid test. You want to know about how Bill Graham became the epic company. And it's really exciting to hear some of the Jerry Garcia comments about my guitar was broken and we were all high and didn't really care if we played. But this guy was trying to fix my guitar for me and trying to help me get on stage. And I was just like, oh, what a nice guy. And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but it's so amazing, right? Like everybody's spiking all of the soda pops and the ice and the water in the soda pops. So when you picked up the can of pop out of the soda, it was already laced with acid. It's like, what a fun time to live through, especially if you weren't necessarily trying to trip that night. You were just trying to promote a Grateful Dead concert. It could make settlement a tad hard, I would think. But how different of a time must have been where your bands are just trying to dose you.
Unbelievable.
Luke, do you have a favorite industry book you want to throw in there?
All right, I think I got two. The one that I read first that I really liked was The Mailroom by David Resnick. I think the full name is The Mailroom, A Hollywood History from the Ground Up. And it's mostly about film TV agencies going back from like the beginnings of the William Morris Agency through really like the Endeavor years. So for those who are students of like the agency world, which I wanted to be forever, this is like a great kind of breakdown from like an anthology perspective, talking to agents and leaders that were former mailroom and assistants along the way, kind of breaks down into Hollywood history from the mailroom perspective. There's just some funny stories that come out of that. I'd recommend that book to anyone really who really wants to get into entertainment if you want to get a sense of what the culture and the life is like. In a more modern sense, also note that there's a great book for all you sickos out there who like Bret Easton Ellis. There's a book by a former agent named Jordan O'Kuhn called L.A. Fade Away, which is like Less Than Zero, but if it were set in a talent agency in the early 2010s. Brilliantly written, an incredible read. We should get Jordan Okun on this podcast someday because he's fucking awesome. His whole character was great in that. So that's a fun fictional read. And then one thing that I've always really taken to heart, and I know you asked for one and I'm giving three, is Jerry Weintraub's autobiography, which is When I Stop Talking, You'll Know I'm Dead. And Jerry, again, kind of a mogul who's traversed music, starting by travel agency to music, and was the guy who basically broke up the regionalized promoter networks and promoted an act nationally in Elvis kind of for the first time to music mogul. And just like an incredible story and an incredible lessons that come from that book, and just very, very entertaining. But those are the ones I would recommend to people in the music business.
Love it.
Ben, thank you so much for taking the time. Best of luck throughout your journey. I know you're early on in the early days here, but Mac Presents is such a great place to start. I think you've got great future ahead of you. Thank you so much for playing 3 questions.
Thank you for having me.
Ben is hungry and looking to move up in the business. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more from this young man very soon.
Hi, Jim Gosnell, President and CEO of APA. I'm on Promoter 101.
It's your favorite time. It's the unveiling of the Promoter 101 Badass of the Week. Who we got, Dan?
This week it goes out to Live Nation New York's Sean Stringle. So much of the best business is happening via this guy's desk. He just loves what he does, and he's just great at it. Got to give it up this week for the Promoter 101's Badass of the Week, Mr. Sean Stringle.
Hard to argue any of that. Big congrats, Sean.
Hello, this is Sarah Mertz. I work at Eventbrite, and you are listening to Promoter 101.
In our featured interview this week, we continue the London sessions as we sit down with the Netherlands Networking Music's Ruud Berends.
Hanging out with Ruud. Dude, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dan.
Tell me about your company. You guys are a world business.
Basically, my company is a simple company. It's a one-man company, and I work for various clients throughout Europe.
Network music. You guys have a long-standing background, though, in the industry.
Well, I started the industry professionally when I became an agent in the early 80s. Being a European agent for American artists mainly. All the acts from SST, Sub Pop, Twin Tone.
You guys were doing cool acts.
You can say that, yeah.
So you're taking a lot of trips to the U.S. South by Southwest was big for you.
Well, we went to a new musical seminar prior to South by Southwest.
I haven't heard that forever. Wow.
That was the big thing. In the old days, you had Adam S. in New York, and you had one big thing in Berlin called the Berlin Independent Days. That was prior to Popcom and prior to South by Southwest.
So how'd you get in the business to begin with? Let's start there.
I lived in a small town in the east of Holland, and we were bored, and we squatted a youth club and started to open club, book bands.
So you started doing shows out of necessity?
Yeah, and because basically everything we listened to, nobody was putting them on the road, or you couldn't see the bands we loved. So at a certain point, my brother was working in a venue, I was working in a venue, and we decided to start to bring over the bands we really wanted to see. And before we knew it, we had 15 people in the company, and we were doing 1,200 shows a year.
Can you tell me about your time as a culture worker?
Well, those were interesting days. Actually, we had to do everything, we had to clean the toilets, cook the food, work behind the bar, be the DJ, book the bands, do the finances, be the bouncer, everything. In those days, it was a system of, you had a lot of subsidized clubs in Holland.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was a really good way of giving the kids something to do instead of hanging on the streets like they do it nowadays and destroy things. And we put them to work. We let them work in the club. So basically, they discovered who they were, what the capacities were they good at something, then we let them do that. And yeah, it was fascinating times.
How did Paperclip Agency come to be?
Like I said, my brother was booking in another venue, and I was booking in a venue, and basically we started bringing over some bands, and then you need a name and a legal...
the entity?
Yeah.
I'm looking at some of these bands that you were involved with, and let me name drop a little bit, right? I mean, Screaming Trees, Soundgarden, Mudhoney, Tad. Most people may not know Tad, but they played one of the first punk shows I ever went to.
Yeah.
So cool. Nirvana, Hole, Lemonheads, Soul Asylum, Buffalo Tom. This is an amazing list. Link Ray, L7, Babes in Toyland, Yola Tango, Afghan Wigs, Flaming Lips. This list just doesn't stop. You work with some of the coolest bands in the world. I mean, you were basically triad in your part of the world.
Yeah. We were in a lucky situation that that period had so many awesome bands. And we worked out of, fan base, sort of. It wasn't too commercial. It wasn't about making money. It was about booking bands you fucking loved.
So you were bringing acts you just wanted to see.
Yeah.
That's cool. And if you could make a dime doing it.
And travel and see the world and have fun.
You built it up, and you guys did that for 19 years. In 2001, you started networking.
Networking music, yeah. After almost 20 years being an agent, it was time for something else. And my brother and I saw things in a different way. We also lost the game a little bit. Competing with the English agents is a hard one, as we all know. Look at the business today. It's still based in London. So we lost a lot of acts. And we didn't agree anymore on how to continue with the company. So we had a burnout and decided to do something else.
Paperclip was a legendary agency. Do you think you guys would still be doing it? Had you moved to London, would that have changed the game for you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Did you thought about it? Because clearly
I had some offers, but I never did anything with that. But sometimes, you can look back and think like, what if?
Well, your home is your home.
There you go. And I'm quite happy with the choices I made. And where I am now is a good place. So.
You call networking music a one-stop shop for international live music industry.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit.
Well, I got a lot of clients. One of them is Eurosonic Noorderslag. It's the biggest European showcase festival, a non-profit foundation.
Can you say the name of that again?
Eurosonic Noorderslag.
How does that fit on a ticket? Wow.
Well, we use the abbreviation ESNS.
Got it.
And a lot of people just say Eurosonic, especially on the international level.
Okay.
It's the biggest 100% showcase festival in Europe. We only book a young, new European artist. It's about 350 acts, and we have around 4,000 delegates each year.
4,000 delegates. That's incredible.
Yeah.
You must spend most of your year planning that.
It's quite a job, yeah. And beside that, I work on a consultancy basis for Where's Music in Sweden, East European Music Conference in Romania, Westway Lab in Portugal, and I am a co-founder together with Greg from the ILMC of the IFF in London.
Tell me about the IFF. You hear about it a lot while I'm over here at ILMC.
Yeah. Well, it was a simple idea. English agents are getting crazy each year about the large amount of festivals coming to London to do business in, let's say, September, in fall of every year. They go crazy. It's too much. So we thought, why not arrange a platform for the buyers and the sellers to meet each other in London in the right time of the year? And that's IFF. It is agents and festivals only.
So put them in the room together so they can become a breeding ground for more business, an incubator.
That's what they do. It's all about, meet again, but also have time in a well-organized, relaxed setting with some panels, some keynotes, some showcases, some dinners. And for the rest, it's buy and sell.
Okay, and then you're also an advising consultant.
Yeah, that's what I do with Westway Lab and other clients like Romania, Sweden. I also work for an artist in Norway called Motor Psycho. The same, connecting the dots, like connect good music to good people. That's what I do. Networking music.
Seems like there's certainly a love and spirit for the industry that you just have and always have. It's always been driven by the music, it seems like.
Always.
Putting people together.
Yeah, I think it's a privilege to work in this industry. If you're in a position that you can work with the people you want to work with and companies you want to work with and music you want to work with, that's a luxury.
And there seems to be a growing number of conferences. It seems like you could be at a conference every week if you wanted to in this industry now around the world. Finding something particular and specializing like you do with the festivals and the agents and making that so specialized, making sure that stands out to that particular group of people seems like the future of the business is like specializing in something like that on the conferences.
I think there's room for every sort of a model. ILMC is something else and IFF is something else, then Eurosonic is something else than Reeperbahn. It all depends on the time of the year as well, of course. Like IFF is a specialized one. I mean, that was a goal and idea from day one. From year one, we were sold out. So a large waiting list of festivals who want to attend but can't.
Year one was sold out.
Year two was sold out. Year three was sold out. Year four was sold out, which is quite remarkable in a city like London.
Do you keep moving up in capacity?
A little bit, but we want to keep it condensed.
You never hear year one was sold out. That's an amazing feat. Were you guys expecting that?
No.
I mean, usually the first couple of years, usually an investment.
Yes.
That must have blown your socks off when you realized
totally. Yeah. You could dream of it, but when it happens, it's almost surreal.
Obviously, that's an amazing accomplishment just right off the bat. Do you miss your days as an agent?
Yes.
Do you ever think about messing with both sides again?
No.
You're done?
No, I don't. What I don't miss is that I know who's hot and not and run from one show to another and check out bands and sign and fight. And I don't miss the stress of being an agent. What I miss is routing a tour of a great band and sitting behind the PA stack and watching the crowd. That part I miss.
Well, you got to work with some of the best bands in the world, so I get that. Watching Nirvana on stage in the early, how cool was that?
Well, Nirvana was a sort of the one band who got lucky. They were really good and exceptional and everything, of course, but there were so many more bands who could have been the one that made it. Like Nirvana was the result of 5-6 years of American artists touring in Europe and building up a crowd and a need for this kind of music.
Who else could have it been that maybe deserved it too?
I would say something like Lemonhead, Seven Dendo. They had it all. live extremely good. Evan is a good-looking guy with a great voice and great songwriting.
An amazing personality. Evan Dando's very cool.
Yeah. So all in all, I would have thought like Lemonheads could have been like the one to cross and be very successful. But quality is never a guarantee for success, as we all know.
Yeah, it seems like certainly Sonic Youth could have been bigger.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't get pretty big, but I think they were one single away from being REM.
Yeah. I mean, Nirvana was quite remarkable, actually, that they blew up as they did.
Do you have any advice for some of the young kids coming up in the industry on how to have career longevity, as you have?
Follow your heart and follow your stomach more than your brain. Try to work with what you like.
When you say follow your stomach, do you mean your gut?
Your gut. No, it's more like your stomach knows better than your brain sometimes, like, instantly if something is good or not.
That makes sense. You got to trust your gut.
Yeah.
Right, I got to thank you so much for taking time and talking to me on Promoter 101.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Ruud is just a rock, doing solid business in the Netherlands, and so thrilled to have him here on Promoter 101.
Hey, this is Craig Newman. For all you lovers out there, turn on the AM radio, put down your inhibitions, and pick up a cool glass of Promoter 101.
The quote of the week comes to us from Dr. Seuss. That's right, Dr. Seuss has the quote of the week.
Theodore Gazelle.
Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind.
Fergie, tour design. I'm on Promoter 101.
Hey, that'll do it. Ep 146 of Promoter 101 in the bag. Thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in today. We genuinely appreciate it. To our wonderful guest this week, all the way from the Netherlands, Networking Music's Ruud Berends and Mac Presents Ben Pitkowsky joining us here on the podcast. We'd love to hear what you thought of today's episode. Send us a note. Hit us up at steiny@promoter101.net. We'd love to hear from you.
We'll return this Thursday at 5 p.m. on the Pacific Standard Time. Eastern Standard Time, that's going to be 8 p.m. I did the math for you. Central Standard Time, that's 7. In the mountains, 6. And all the way over in London, Greenwich Mean Time, that's midnight.
And our Thursday podcast coming up later this week, we'll have a great featured interview from Midas Promotions' Michael Hosking of Singapore.
Until then, we're wishing you sold out shows for the week to come.
Cheers. Call your mother.
Do us a favor and just call your mom already.
She wants to hear from you.
She's gone to extreme measures to reach out to us. She's like our only sponsor. Promoter 101, brought to you by your mother.
This is Dave Ratner of Creative Law Network, and you're listening to Promoter 101.
Ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter